We'll talk about my first deal. We closed, came across this lead. I'm like, man, no, this was $2. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be an easy deal. 2 heirs. So I called, the lady answered, she just hung up. So I'm like, oh, this is not gonna be as easy as I thought, just 2 heirs. I couldn't find this young lady anywhere that she was actually in jail. I'm like, oh shoot. So I met the lady, we talked. She didn't even care about the house. She didn't know where her sister was, so it was a mess. The reason we started going with this was 2 heirs. So we got back, we had 50% or $2K. The only issue is now we couldn't find the other sister.
So now you're back to the square one.
The next step was to hire the baker, private investigator firm. They found a sister.
How long did it take you from the moment you're like, I realized like, oh, we need to find her, she's in jail, till the time you got that signature?
30 days.
You went from, I don't know, to 100 grand in equity in 30 days. And that was your first deal.
That was our first deal.
Welcome to Dirty Deeds. Today I've got Tim and Emily here. They came from land space, flipping land, wholesaling land, and doing brokerage type work out there. They've recently made a huge change in their model and have focused on distressed property acquisition very heavily. We're going to talk about that today. Welcome, y'all.
Hi. Glad to be here, man. Really good to be here.
Thank you.
Being Bexar. First time I hear you talk, man, on some of the trainings we were doing.
Yeah.
You kept saying Bear County. I was going to.
Bear.
I was going to correct and say, look, is it you mean Bexar? So I finally did some research. Like, they call it Bear County. Anyway.
Yeah, it's the Mexican pronunciation. So I went down to the land records the first time I was here. I couldn't figure out how to use their land records. I just went to the courthouse on my computer. The clerk, I'm like, how do you use this stupid thing? I just moved to Bexar County. She looked at me and she goes, it's Bear. Yeah. I was like, she must know. From then on, I always called it Bear.
Yeah. That was pretty interesting to know about San Antonio. So.
Yeah. This is a super old city. A lot of folks came from Mexico, also through Spain up here. Man, we got buildings that were built in the 1800s, early 1800s. A lot of them in the late 1800s, and this place really developed. It's a cool place. Anyway.
Good stuff, yeah.
Fun real estate history. So, but that's not why we're here.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Tell us about what our business... First off, tell us both of y'all's roles.
Okay.
And then tell me a little bit about what y'all's business looks like today.
Okay. So Emily, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I'm Emily. I'm acquisition manager at LFO Landfast Offers. I've been with Tim for about a year and a half, I think. So I had a sales background before that and jumped on board with Tim, and so glad I did because he's taught me so much just in general, whether it's sales, real estate, just overall. So I feel like I've grown a lot, definitely, since starting with him. But yeah, that's me. I'm from Western New York.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't commend Emily. She came a long way all the way from Western New York, so it's a long journey to be here. So definitely kudos to you. So my name is Tim ABA. I've been in the real estate space since 2017, right around Harvey. And people ask me, how did I get in? The reason I got into real estate specifically, I was about to get married. And I needed money for the wedding. That's the honest truth. Because I'm Nigerian, my background, Nigerian American, first generational. And in Nigerian culture, weddings are huge, probably 500-700 people guest. So that's a couple 20, 30, 40K. Yeah. So when you're the man, you got to be responsible for that. So I had a corporate job at the time. So I started looking for some other kind of disposable income on the side. And through that, came across Rich Dad, Poor Dad, had some friends that were doing wholesaling. I had no idea what wholesaling was. And they told me about it, and I kind of jumped into real estate. So that's how I kind of got started. It's 2017. And funny enough, and we'll talk about this, the reason the DPA model resonated with me is I started real estate in 2017, but doing a lot of pre-foreclosures and subject twos and wraparound mortgages. So I was doing a lot of work directly in Harris County. That's why I live in Houston, from their land records, from the county clerk. So when I got in DPA, I'm like, oh, this is my origination. So I was very comfortable.
I feel back at home
Yes,
again.
very comfortable with that.
You started out, you saw a little bit of messes, you saw the delinquency, you knew how to navigate the land records. You're like, wait a second, there's a couple dots I'm not connecting.
Right. So that's how I got started. But eventually that dried up because it's very competitive, that pre-foreclosure list and all that.
Yeah.
So we eventually got into land through, shout out to Jack Bosch. I went with Jack Bosch. I know you've been on this podcast. And we got into the land space. And with the land space, it helped me leave my corporate job after 16 years in December 2022. Right. So it was going very well. But eventually, that was going well. Brought on Emily to the team as an acquisition manager as of a year and a half ago. So that's been going very well. Then eventually, things kind of tapered off, and we met you guys, and things took off from there.
A lot of people's interest rates are going up over the last couple of years. The market has gotten more competitive, and one of the challenges you have right now is there are fewer buyers. Just
biggest thing.
People have cooled off a little bit, and you say, "Gosh, this is a smoking deal. I know how to comp land. I got a good deal, but I can't move this dead gum contract. Or if I buy it, it sits on MLS for a long time. What the heck do I do?"
Yep.
And unless you're buying with mega problems and have super low basis, you don't have the ability to keep lowering your price. And when I hear all those folks out there that are house flipping and wholesale, I say, just lower your price. And they're like, dude, I'm already at break even. I'm like, oh, that's the problem.
Yeah. A lot of what also, and Emily can probably talk to it. The biggest issue we were finding in Atlanta, again, we'll talk about how we transitioned to DPA, or distressed property acquisitions. Like you said, so we do a lot of double closes, right? So we get the A and B with the seller. Well, Emily does. She was crushing 10, 12, 13, 14 contracts in a month on the acquisition. So she's very good at it. And the issue was dispo, because we couldn't really move these. Our cancellation was maybe at 50, 60%. And we got to the point we had to do a lot of retrading with the sellers. And it wasn't like we're trying to be manipulative. It was just like, this is what the buyers were coming in. And if you want to move this is where we need to be at. Being very transparent. And one thing we did with our double closes, we're very transparent with the sellers. Like, we're not the buyers. We're going to put this on, we're going to take this to the retail market. We'll find a buyer, come back. You don't have to do anything. We just get paid.
I like that you're doing that, because so many people early on, they haven't started to earn yet, and they'll do anything for the dollar.
Right.
And a lot of people say, okay, we'll do what it takes. And then later on, they'll start to be more transparent. Like, man, deals will fall apart. They will happen. And if you're transparent with somebody, things will still fall apart.
Right.
But the answer is, if you are transparent and the deal doesn't fall apart, it's going to work. It's a better situation. It takes you out of harm's way.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are scared to be transparent, and they just didn't know that the deal would have been fine anyway, but they're playing this game. Dude,
and people
do the right fucking thing.
100%. And Emily can probably talk to this. People, and Emily, you should, because people trust you, all right, because you're being authentic and you're being transparent. Yep. I feel like they can trust you, right? Emily, you want to?
I pitch stuff to people that's almost embarrassing, but you know what?
Right.
I'm being outright and forthcoming and transparent. And you'd be shocked how many people agree to something that you never think they would agree. I didn't have to lie or hide in the beginning. I just had to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. I think that's why I've had so much success in this role, is just because I'm so comfortable genuinely being myself. And honesty is a value that I, is near and dear to my heart, that I value over anything else. So it's like, that's who I am through and through. So I'm not going to talk on the phone like someone I'm completely not, and people hear that over the phone. I work remotely, so that's all I have. I don't have a handshake and a face-to-face. So,
you got a voice, no face to it.
Yeah. And so, they can hear that over the phone, and they're like, okay, I can trust this person. And that's really hard nowadays, because there's so many scams out there, and people think that everything's a scam. So when you have success over the phone, I feel like it's a lot different than what it used to be, just because people's guards are up. But when you can get them to lower their guard by being honest and genuine and transparent, is where you can really win.
Yep, that's absolutely right. Wow, if anybody's paying attention out here and you think the opposite, please listen. I'm telling you this, he's telling you this, she's telling you this. If you don't think it's the right answer, just go try it for a month. It's not going to destroy your business, but see what the result is. You might be shocked, and they change doing it like that forever. I know these stories sound crazy, but could all these testimonials be wrong? No, they're not. Many times we show financials. Many times we talk about addresses. The stories are real, the profit's real, and the people are real. And you know what? The program is real. Look, I do have a coaching program. I've been running it for years now. We train folks every single semester to either start a new business if they're a high W-2 earner, or to create, repair, fix their real estate business. It really works for both of those. So look, I got a few-minute video. There's a link down below. If you're even remotely curious, you owe it to yourself to click on it and just see what it's about. If it's for you, great, let's talk. If it's not, go on to the next video. Go check out the link below in the caption. All right, so keep going. We dove off into the integrity thing and the transparency thing for a while, but
Right. So we do the land space. So now, still speaking about land space. So we were doing land. We started September 2020. We went for 5 years straight, going very well. First, it was just me. I remember I had my first VA the following year. She eventually quit on me. And I literally was almost in tears, broken, right? Because this time I didn't really understand leadership. I was coming from corporate America, and this is my first time really leading people. And this person, she was from the Philippines, and their culture was different. So I was just trying to be respectful. So we didn't really do a lot of Zoom calls because it was virtual. Because I was reading some studies. They were like, well, the Filipino culture, a lot of times they're shy. So I didn't want to put them on Zoom calls daily. And eventually there was never really that connection, because we just talk on Zoom, but it'd be blank screens, and this is not intimate. It's not the right way to do things. It's virtual. So eventually she quit. I remember I was almost in tears, and eventually I joined a mastermind. And that mastermind really opened up doors for me, because it's taught me leadership, how to recruit, how to train people, what to look for, how to actually run your numbers. Eventually we actually hired a consulting company to help us with our KPIs based on traction. right? We paid them like $20K. They came in to kind of help us. Emily was there, right? We had the whole team come in to kind of help us really build the team. So for 5 years, there was every year we kind of doubled our business until we got to like 2024, coming into this year, eventually kind of flatlined. And this is where we actually scaled up and hired more team members. Because right now I think we're at 7. And we let a cold caller go because we moved into DPA. Well, we'll continue to scale, but eventually what tapered off was, like you said, the market.
So you're pushing resources up, and it's flatlining. So really, it's declining if you would have been dumping resources upwards.
True.
So in that point, you say, oh, we got a problem.
You're right.
How long did that go before you decided to do something about it?
Well, it was just this year we recognized it, right? Because
I mean, like, was it happening throughout the year, and you're eventually like, whoa, we got to do something?
What do you mean?
Well, here's what I'm asking. When we were one of the guys in our office was wholesaling commercial real estate with a small team, and they were destroying it. We got to a point when interest rates rose almost 2 years ago, where they literally couldn't sell a contract. Our cancellation rate just started to skyrocket, and we're like, "What is going on, dude?" We burned through that for 3 months. We got to the point we lost. We shrunk margin. We broke even. We lost money. By the 3rd or 4th month, we'd lost about $250,000 with overhead, just phase 1 surveys, expenses, and we're like, "Hold on, we've tried everything, and we're pretty good at this. Wouldn't work." We knew there's a problem, and we basically told everybody, all right, terminate all the contracts we got out there. Guys, y'all need to get back onto distressed property too.
Well, the good point. So thanks for clearing that up. So when I started to realize that was, I want to say in 2024, last year, our numbers were probably about $27K spread per deal, right? So very good. So we're coming to 2025, full team scaled up. Now it's shrunk all the way to about $10K.
Oh, wow.
A deal.
At that point, you're near break even, probably.
Yeah. The only little difference our saving grace was our volume was a little more. So I was able to kind of keep pace a little bit. But you're right, because every time we get a contract, we're paying $150 to flat listing MLS. We pay $250 for a droner to go out there. On all of our contracts, one thing we did when our attorney had to help us, because the lady counseled and we lost $40K. So all our contract, we give some kind of earnest money. It's a non-refundable deposit. We literally send them $25 for every contract. So think about it. If we're counseling 50%, we're spending about $500 a contract, and most of these 50-60% are getting counseled. So that's what you're saying. So that money's just going out the window, right? So when I started seeing, okay, margin shrinking, the expenses are still consistent. You're paying the team. I knew there was a problem. So what we started doing, the only workaround we started doing before we came into DPA was we just opened up markets. Because before we were in the Southeast U.S., we were in Southeast. We're in North Carolina, we're in Florida, Alabama, Georgia. But after that, I was like, man, these markets are starting to become saturated in land and starting to become competitive because everyone at mom is teaching land. Funny. Florida is crazy, but that's a different topic. So we just said, let's change our strategy as far as the markets we're going after. So we started going to the Northeast, which most people in land, Nugget, if you're still in land, right? Northeast U.S., right? Nobody goes there. And what am I talking about? Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, where she is, Rhode Island.
Super high value. It's hard to get things to work there. That's ultra competitive.
Well, in what sense?
I think those are ultra competitive real estate markets for everybody.
Well, in land, it's slow. A lot of people don't know that for the land space.
Oh, in land. Okay.
Maybe for houses.
I guess I'm thinking improved property. I don't know. I never really thought about the land. And when you're saying land, it's usually rural.
Yeah, it's rural land. So the thing is, in the land space, most of the land investors are not in the Northeast because all the coaching is in Florida, North Carolina, Texas is huge because of all these subdivides and this the exceptions when it comes to subdividing acres, 10-acre exception. So everybody comes here for these subdivide kind of deals, but people don't go to the Northeast. So we pivoted to kind of solve our problems. We've pivoted to the Northeast.
Did it work?
But the issue we ran into, is terrible because it's an attorney states. And everybody needs attorneys as opposed to
couple issues with the whole Northeast.
Oh yeah, attorney states
are trying to close deals out there. New York is. Respectfully, it's not the best.
I told you about New York.
Yeah. So so the challenge there was now the transaction coordination. Everyone, the seller needs the attorney. Think about we're doing double closes. Seller needs an attorney. Our company needs an attorney. The buyer needs an attorney. So there are 3 attorneys on a double close.
I don't love having attorneys involved unless it's lit work. You get an attorney in a regular transaction, hit the brakes, dude. Slow down quick.
Yes.
Every little detail.
Yeah. So it became a mess. So it started to become a challenge. But Emily, you can tell us how were some of the sellers out there in the Northeast when you started talking to them compared to like other places?
I didn't notice a huge difference as far as like the sellers. They're all still people.
Yeah, good point.
But it was more so the market, things with the county, wetlands that weren't visible on our maps in the Northeast that you had to call the county, and they had to go to FEMA directly, and it just didn't show up. So we'd get into properties that had wetlands that we weren't even aware of, that was, wouldn't have been in our buy box otherwise, harder to dispo. So it was just some issues there that we were coming across. And then there was, when we were in the, different cities, obviously they have building codes for square foot, lot size that are very strict, but every little town has a different code. So when we're looking at all these different places, and I have appointments all across the board, it was just a lot more research, just what's the building code, what's the lot size has to be a buildable lot. So it was just a lot more research as far as just our regular deals than what we were used to doing in other parts of the state.
Yeah, and the thing about the land stuff with the double close is it was a lot of work just to maybe hit a 7, 8, 10, 12K spread. I mean, we were working because our team, we do deep due diligence because we're doing double close. So when we present,
if you're doing land right, you should.
Yes, we do deep.
There's a lot of stuff to land.
When we presented our due diligence package to the buyer's agent, we're like, here's all our work, and they're happy.
That way, it makes the buyer easy to buy because they don't have to go through all that. That's why you're doing it.
Yeah, so we do that. So we started doing this. I'm like, they're not getting 3% commission because they're doing all the work.
Because you're helping them.
Yeah, we just give them 2%, and we're flat fee. So that kind of helped us some of the margins there, but it was just a lot of work. But one nugget I will say, before I say this, in the Northeast, the issue we ran into a lot of times, I think landlocked properties, right? They were like, you couldn't build on them or something. They didn't.
Yeah, they have to have a minimum road frontage requirement.
15 to 30 feet, depending on the place, the location.
Some was 75, 100 feet.
It was crazy.
Every town was different.
Was
That's
crazy.
what I mean. You had to look up all these things before I went on the call. I'm looking at, I've been in this, we were just in this town, and just seeing okay, is this even qualified? Because it was getting through to me because our, the guy that does, all our, comps and data analysis, he wasn't aware of all those changes in the Northeast. So then I'm starting to do a lot of research, is this even worth it? Do I want to take this appointment?
Here's what's happening. We think of it as just land. And when we were doing a lot of platted lots up in Canyon Lake, which is about a half hour north of here, those had been developed. So that's not raw land.
Right, that's
so
true.
They're platted. There's there's subdivisions. They were just never developed. So literally we wouldn't know anything. We'd get a contract for a fraction of the CAD value and go out there and sell it and make money. And it was so simple.
Yeah.
But when you're doing undeveloped raw land, if you can't use the land for your intended purpose, it's worth nothing.
It's zero.
Whoa. So what's the intended purpose? Now you got to figure that out. What does it take to get from here to there? All these little things depending on your intended purpose.
Right. So that was a Northeast.
You guys were easing into land development, didn't know it.
Oh no, we did entitlement. We got eventually entitlement deal.
Well,
we did entitlement deals. They didn't really go through. It's
slow.
A beast. It's a different ball game. All the approvals you have to get, right? The entitlement through the city, and anyway, it wasn't the best. But what I was getting to with the landlocked stuff, the Northeast was a challenge, but the landlocked actually in the land space. So competitive advantage if you do land that helped us. A lot of people when they're pulling that data, they scrub out landlocked properties.
Yeah,
we never did because some of our best deals came from landlocked properties in the Southeast. North Carolina, Florida, because we can still move those. They were not as strict because the Southeast. There's a website I think called Land Freedom Code where it talks about the most lax codes as far as different cities around the country. Alabama is at the top. Texas is maybe ranked 14. All the way to California is at the bottom. Right, so it's kind of like red versus blue states.
Oh, the Carolinas have some really cool subdivision laws.
Right, so they're very lax. So when you get landlocked properties, they can still move. People still buy them. Maybe at 70-60% of retail. So we will still pull landlocked properties. We'll get them under contract and we'll sell them. We're making 30K. We made 30K spread in Florida on a landlocked property, right? So landlocked was good. So we tried that same strategy. I'm going with this. In Northeast, it doesn't work because if it's landlocked, you can't do nothing.
Dead in the water.
So we started running into all these issues when we've been pivoted to a different market and our spreads have dropped. We increased our team. So something different had to change, So when I started seeing you talk on different podcasts and different things, you must be able to speak in Spanish. Speaking Mandarin, it was pretty confusing. Really trying to understand what you guys did. Eventually, we got in there. Yeah.
Interesting. So things are you're trying to figure this way out.
Right.
There are times when a business or a market changes or an economy changes or whatever. When changes happen that aren't external changes happen, you start to question: is it me?
Right.
And I lose my touch. Is this business model no longer viable?
Right.
What's going on externally? Like if you're smart, all those questions happen. As you go through and answer them. The one that's hardest to answer is, have I lost my touch? What's wrong? Because as an entrepreneur, you take a lot of accountability and you ask yourself, is it me?
Right.
Well, at some point you say, dude, it's not. What is it? And then the next question is, can I control that other factor? If the answer to that is no, now your ears become open to some dude like me yapping on the internet because, I got to figure something out. It's, again, my responsibility now that I've decided it ain't my fault. It's still my responsibility.
Right.
That's when your ears got open.
Right. I will say one thing that I thank God for helping us is and I'll let Emily speak to this, we had become pretty strong process-oriented company with land.
It's great.
Like from market selection all the way down to transaction coordination to close, like system process SOPs. I went out of the country in July, and kudos to my team. I don't have to do anything. I just come in at the NTC and just look at the deals, transaction. Okay, yeah, signed HUD. So we were like a machine.
Everybody's thing was working right.
Yeah, from market selection, we had one of our guys, Paulo, shout out to Paulo. He selects the markets, send it to our data scrubbers in the Philippines. They scrub it. He puts the schedule for the textures, for the cold callers. They call the list. Even to the point where we close a deal, our team knows where to go back and remarket to that same area. So Emily's closing deals about 10, 13 contracts a month. So we had everything going. So that's like what you're saying. We knew like, okay, our stuff internally, we're still trying to tweak things. We're trying to do things better. We're working on sales strategy, trying to get better deals from sellers. But the dispo was stuck.
Your KPIs were flipping. Contract cancellations were going up. Closings are going down. The moment that inverts, you're like, fudge. Yep. Okay, so then what happens next? You hear some dude on the internet yapping. You're like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. Where do you go?
It was, so you started, we started seeing your stuff on there. Funny enough, I went to Ajay, shout out, I know he's your guy.
Yeah.
I was one of his events, and I met a guy, one of my friends here, Lowell, and we were talking, we have like small mastermind. He was like, oh yeah, this guy Logan. I'm like, yeah. So I wrote it down like, yeah, they do this distressed. I'm like, because think about it, we're deep into the land. I'm like, one thing about me, Logan, it's hard for me to change focus.
Yeah, you're pregnant, dude.
Yeah, when I'm locked in, I'm locked in. I hear things, forget it. Even
that's a strength most times.
It's a strength. Even to the point of, so we'll go off tangent a little bit, even to the point of Bitcoin. Since 2014, my friend kept telling one of my good friends, get Bitcoin. No, because I don't understand it. I only invest in things I understand, which is good. He's like, Tim, I'm telling you, no. I see go up, all the way nice to the 100K. I eventually start doing it now. But the reason I don't do things like that, if I don't understand it, I stay disciplined. I'm pretty disciplined in that sense.
That's why.
Which is good, right? So that's why it took me a while. When we started hearing about your stuff, what helped me as far as it's a strength and a weakness, because one thing I try to have to start getting better as a leader, which I'm slowly getting better, is still becoming a little more open-minded. You might not be into, just listen.
Yeah.
Just, okay, just before I just don't want to hear it, right? Mm-hmm. Which is getting better. It helps me, right? So being open, I wrote that down. My friend mentioned, okay, Logan, this stuff. They have this stuff in Austin, San Antonio. So eventually I started researching a little bit. This is the same time my team is running. Everything go well. Started hearing your stuff on different podcasts. But I had no clue what you were talking about. Right?
So tell me about that. You listen, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what this guy's talking about. How long did it take for you to start to listen to stuff to say, oh, I think I'm getting this?
Maybe about 6 months.
Because one of the concerns I have is when we start talking technical stuff, I'm worried that folks that are in the other real estate, house flipping, wholesaling, land, whatever, I'm worried that it sounds so complicated. They're like, oh my gosh. And I don't want to minimize the complexity of any business, but I think we've done a good job of taking something that's almost taken 12 years to figure out and compress it in a time where someone can figure it out and earn money quickly. Now you'll have the next 10 years to learn all these unique details, but we should be able to get people up to revenue way quicker than you think, because there is part of this business that isn't super complicated. And we can get you there.
Right. So the thing is, to be frank, it was, because think about it, we're coming from a very simple business model. Let's just backtrack. People that do houses, because I did houses in wholesaling when I started doing wraparound, where we just sold the twos. I would wholesale some of those, right? So it was a very simple model. Doing land, you get contract, sell contract. Very simple model. Once they're hearing about heirs, calling, obituaries, whoa. It's a different kind of business. It really is. It's still the same, but it's different. It's a different strategy. Yeah. You put it like that. So when I started hearing that, it took me a while. But one thing I will say, Logan, I have to commend you that you kept saying on the podcast, you were like, hey, it's simple. Anybody, you can do it, right? You kept mentioning something along those lines. Hey, you can do it. And I was like, okay, yeah. So that kind of gave a little confidence, because you kept me fine. Because I watched a few of your podcasts. One thing I do about people is before I invest in things, I research them deeply. So I was chasing you on different podcasts outside of your stuff just to see how you're consistent on other podcasts you go to. And like I saw you on Jack Bosch. I saw you on Seth, I can't remember his last name, Seth, where he does a lot of land stuff. So just kind of listening to you, but it was consistent. Like, hey, I know it might sound complicated, but anyone can do it. You kept like phrasing that. Okay. Yeah. So that kind of gave a little hope, but it took a couple of months to really, because it was to me, it was a lot. I'm curious to what were your thoughts when you started hearing about the
first I heard about it was in, I think, June, when you're like, really? Yeah, I'm thinking about doing this, but I might wait till February. And then, like, I don't know, later that day or the next day, he's like, nope, we're doing it now.
That's the spirit of an entrepreneur right there. Our team goes nuts. I come in, I'm like, all right, we're doing this. Sheik's getting back there, they're going to be laughing right now. I'm like, all right, guys, this is the plan. We have a meeting. And then 2 days later, I come in, I'm like, no, we're doing this. I'm like,
this is Tim. And then he's like, well, I think I might do it. And then I'll just kind of teach you as I go. And then later that he's like, no, you're going to do it with me. Yes. But I'm so thankful he did it that way, because and he goes back to always, I believe 2 minds are better than one. If you put 2 minds together, it's more powerful than just having one person. So
thank you for supporting him in that, because people that have to make that decision, we all have our own roles. They're also different. And if everybody doesn't believe in that vision, sometimes you might not even see it, but you're like, I got to trust this dude. He's got to drive the ship. I got to run this part. She's got to run that part. He's got to run this part. And if you don't have trust and belief in that, man, that ship ain't going the right direction. Right. And that's just, everybody's got different jobs, but that's a really hard job.
Yeah. So I was happy that he decided to bring me on through the coaching program, not just teaching me afterwards, because it was and I don't think he realized how intense it would have been. If he knew that, it would have been like no brainer, So learning as we went together was very helpful, because if we had questions, we're asking Kyle and bouncing it off each other. And whereas he would have kind of been stuck at his own boat, as far as our team, if he had questions, versus we bounce things off each other constantly all the time. What do you think about this? And then he has a different perspective. I have a different perspective, and we're coming up with things that the other one didn't even think about. So it worked really well as far as like going through the program together. If anyone's looking at the program and they have a partner or someone on their team, I highly recommend having that person join with them, just for the sake of.
We encourage that big time.
Yeah, there's, if he doesn't pick up information, maybe I did. Or if I didn't pick up something, he remembers, So just, it was way better doing that way. I'm also thankful that, like I told him, that we started in July and not waited till the next round in February, just because we kind of dove right in.
What, you got another 6 months to wait and see?
I'm like, can you imagine?
Opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Move.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, can you imagine if we waited? I'm like, I'm so thankful we started, he made that decision. Let's just do it now, because it really has taken off with us. We learned so much, and we've been very successful. We give all the glory to God in everything. Our faith is very important to us. But it's just, divine timing as well,
Yeah.
So like she was saying, and Emily, appreciate that, right? So the more I started listening to you, I remember one day I just went to bed, just thinking about it, just dreaming, like, man. I think what helped was the numbers that got my attention. You always say, like, people like the numbers. We can probably talk that later. But and that got my attention. I was just like, this is just amazing. Because I'm thinking scale and opportunity. But like Emily said, so eventually we decided to make the plunge, just listen to it. Because after talking about all the problems we were going through in the land business, the numbers, our KPIs, margins are shrinking. Dispo was extremely slow. Buyers are having upper hand. Cancellation rates, buyers are demanding this. Another thing with land.
Writing was on the wall, man.
Contracts, maybe 120 days to close. Because when
that means your cash conversion cycle is slower.
Very slow.
So your problems, by the time you recognize them and they start to happen, you're like, oh my gosh, they're so much bigger than a shorter cycle time. Yeah. So your problem just grows.
Yeah, so it just took forever. So eventually, when that came around, I talked to Ajay as a friend. I've been on Ajay before I met you guys, so I saw he was part of it. So I listened to your stuff, so that's why I started telling Emily about it. And part of the reason I brought Emily on is people have to earn that. She had been with us over a year and a half, a year about that time, and she was crushing it with the land. Very good with selling, because before we hired her, we used predictive index, right, to hire. And her personality type is, I needed somebody that is warm and friendly, can forget sales. I need people can talk. You're talking to human beings. Someone that can genuinely, somebody says, oh yeah.
You're in the people business and you deal in land.
Yes, right. So I need people, if you're talking to someone on the phone, you have emotional intelligence. Somebody says, oh yeah, my daughter is 6. Oh man, sorry to hear that. Those little things make a difference to people. Oh, is that your dog? What kind of dog? You got this. You're dealing with people.
Dealing with human.
Yeah, you have to be sensitive, right? And she's good and connecting with people. So she had earned that, crushing 10, 13 deals a month, very consistent. So when this DP opportunity came, I was like, hey, after I decided to make the plunge. And first, I wasn't going to make the plunge in July because I was about to take a trip internationally. And I was like, Logan, in my head, I'm like, no, this is not the right time to take this course. But I had to make a decision, like, either I do it now, wait till February next year. But the opportunity calls, I was like, man. At first, when I got off the call, when you guys were talking for the opportunity to join, I was like, nah, I'm not joining. So this is me fighting myself. But once I thought about it, I was like, man, you know what? If I wait till February, I've lost 6 months. That's all I was thinking of. I'm going to lose 6 months. Like, I might as well take this investment. And part of my pattern, every time our company has done well, when I got into the land space, I invested I talked about Jack Bosch, his program. I went through the same mentorship and coaching that helped us take off. So there's a pattern there. Even when I got into corporate America, I was a software, so I did software testing. My mom had to help me invest. I was broke out of college. My mom had to give me money to invest in a program where the lady taught more of the software, technical skills for software testing. I did that, implemented, it took off. So you start looking at your life, you start seeing patterns. So when I saw Logan, I was like, it's the same pattern. If I get a coach, I want to teach you, understand, it speeds that up. There's not this guessing game. We're going to take off.
You're now running at a run rate, it sounds like about $1.3 million a year in net from this. You recently transitioned to it. And it took me 10 years. Well, it took me 5 years to really get a business that was consistent and going because I was having to figure it all out.
Right.
You didn't have to do all that.
Exactly.
It took me about 4 or 5 years to get to the point somewhere around that range where I could pull in $1 million a year. And it was like me and a person or two. And we were like just working every day, all day, figuring it out, dude. Less than 6 months and you're running.
Right.
That's the value. Sometimes people ask me, is it really worth it? I'm like, I don't know. How much you make today? How much you think you can make in the future? What are these people making?
Right.
I think it's worth twice as much. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say otherwise.
Yeah. So we decided to jump in like July. Probably one of the best decisions. It was a challenge at the time. I had to make a trip. But the reason I brought Emily in, because I'm a big firm believer, like she mentioned, 2 is better than 1. You have 2 minds, right? So we just jumped in, and thank God she was there, different perspective. We're able to learn together, go through the coaching together, because it's a lot of material, right? Before you begin to distill and understand it, because it is a different business model. And at the time, I was still, as an entrepreneur, when you've already set up the system, you took years to set this up, it's hard to turn the ship. So I told the team, like, hey, Emily, what did I tell? Like, maybe just do 1 appointment, keep doing your land, maybe just do 1 DPA. What did I tell? I can't remember.
Yeah. So, it was like, it wasn't super challenging, but trying to do the training and then keep doing all my regular appointments for land, learning it, and then starting doing the research and actually getting on the phone with DPA while you're doing everything else, because we hadn't fully transitioned to, it was a process and we knew that was going to happen. And he was like, well, don't be surprised if by the end of the year, we might go full DPA, we're seeing how it goes. And then he was like, well, don't be surprised if it's sooner. And then it was like a week later, well, we're going full DPA. Yeah, it's always like, don't be surprised.
I like that. Yeah. I like that.
And then it was like, yeah, we're all DPA, no more land. We'll keep the contracts we have and, finish those off and go from there. But at that point, I was like, thank goodness, honestly, because from what we learned, and we were just so hungry in this field, I think that's the thing that really drove it for us is like, land, I won't say it was getting boring, but we saw the challenges there. We saw where the markets were going. And we were so hungry once we found some success here, and just getting on the phones is like, it just fed that hunger. Like, okay, so it was just like exciting at that point. Like, let's keep going. Excited. Yeah, and you're thinking about all these deals and, what you're researching, what you're learning. And it was just like.
And you're looking at this big goal. You're like, we're going to get there. There's hope. Yeah. I have a path. We're ready for something new. Like,
rejuvenates the whole team. The whole team's excited. Like the rest of the team, they're like, oh, what's this new stuff? People are excited. Yeah. And that's why people get bored. The same thing. It's just monotonous. The deals. The thing is, one thing people are doing their daily job and the revenue is coming in. But when things are slow, because most of our team is getting bonus. Someone's like, oh, the bonuses are being delayed. So it's like, man, we're doing all this work, but we're not getting the results of that. And so
now you have hope. A lot of it boils down to we have hope. Even though it takes a little while to get paid, I got the hope. and you can go on Hope for a long time as long as you're seeing progress.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, you get in, you start going to meetings. Most of the stuff we hold virtually. So you're watching it. What's this process like? Because our program's about 4 months or so,
right.
and then you operate outside of that on your own. So what's that look like for y'all's experience?
Yeah, so it was a great experience. So I'll say the first month was great because it was training. I had just got back. I traveled to I went to Southeast Asia. I went to Bali and Singapore with family. So our team was holding it down with the land. And I was still doing some of the coaching, the first month of the coaching virtually. And Emily can talk about her part. Came back, when I came back July of this year, I started getting on the phone, started doing my research. My personality type is big on detail. I'm very detail oriented. So the research kind of aligns with me. And like I remember I told you at the beginning of this conversation, pre-foreclosures, going to the land records. So when you started talking how you find these deals in land records, I'm like, oh, this is my bread and butter. This is where I came from. That's why we immediately did Harris County, because I'm in Houston, right? And there's
That's a big old county.
Yeah, and there's a book called Acres of Diamond. I don't know if you've heard that book, Acres of Diamond. It's about an African farmer where, long story short, everyone should listen to Acres of Diamond, right? It's a book, short stories, African tale about a farmer that he had a farm and he was looking for diamonds. He started hearing stories around the world that people were finding diamonds on their farm. He left his farm, traveled the world. He eventually died, and eventually somebody that bought his farm find diamonds in his farm. So the idea of the story is there's already gold in your backyard.
There usually is.
Yeah, people just go all over the place. So I was like, well, I'm going to start in my backyard.
I tell people that all the time. Like, I'm in North Carolina. I see all these people in Texas. And I'm like, dude, you're in a gold mine. I know people printing in North Carolina. Well, I don't know a lot of people in Kentucky. I look around for comments. I'm like, dude, you can print over there. Like, stop freaking out. Yes, thank you.
So that was the idea. So that's all what I'm doing in my backyard here. And plus, when we talk about my first deal, we closed. I had to physically drive to the property. I don't mind, but it was easier because I had to verify the vacancy. It would have been hard. I know I could send people. I just drove like an hour. I was there in Houston, vacant. We were able to make the deal happen. So my point is, so we decided to do Houston the first month, came back. Within that first month, started doing research. And lo and behold, I came across this lead. I'm like, man, notice it was 2 daughters. I'm like, oh, this is going to be an easy deal. 2 heirs. And I saw the name in the tax suit. I'm going to call her. I called. The lady answered. I gave her the young lady's name I was looking for. She just hung up.
Dang. Dang. I didn't even get in the land space. They're like talking, having a conversation. They want to know more. And you're like,
oh, man, it was hilarious. She hung up. So I had to call back. Because sometimes people hang up. I thought,
did we get disconnected?
Yeah. She didn't answer. I text her. So long story short, so I'm like, oh, this is not going to be as easy as I thought. Just 2 heirs. So we eventually got, and I would tell people, we got BIN verified. Because I couldn't find this young lady anywhere. The good thing, this is a nugget, BIN verified at the very bottom. When I put her name in at the very bottom, it showed that she was actually in jail. Because at the bottom, it showed the court records, like this person. I'm like, oh, shoot. So I went to Harris County in jail system. Her name was there. So I'm like, oh, thank God, at least I know where she's physically located.
Captive audience here. She needs some commissary money. Let's make a deal.
There we go. So she was in jail. So when I finally found it, so I talked to Kyle about it on the coaching call. And about the Bakers. And this is where Emily came in. We talked about, I was like, well, maybe we'll get the Bakers to go out there. It's Harris County Jail. Keep in mind, I live in Houston. We got off the coaching call with Kyle and everyone. Emily's like, Tim, why don't you just go out there yourself?
Yeah.
But Logan, like, man.
He goes, I've never been to jail.
I've never been
I was
to
like,
jail.
this is the only time you're allowed to go to jail.
Yeah,
for
this is cool. This is cool.
So part of me, I'm like, man, I've been to jail. I'm like, oh man, I just never been there. It was just something new experience. So
let's get you out of that shell.
Yeah, get out of that shell. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going 20 minutes from my house.
Oh, dude, it's a lunch break. Come on.
So I drove out there. So the good thing is I went out there, met her. It was just like the movies, literally behind the glass. Think about first, and this is my point with DPA, it's different, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
So I went there, talked to her, nice young lady. We talked, she told me about the family history.
The person you talked to on the phone was some associate or relative who's just like, oh, someone else calling for Jenny, who's the problem? Boom.
No, well, the thing is, this young lady and her sister, they've been estranged from the family. So I think there were issues, so the family didn't like them.
That's common.
So it was, so I met the lady, we talked, nice lady. Long story short, I told her, she's like, I don't care about that property. She kind of grew up there. But one thing she told me, Logan, that kind of touched me, talking about being a people business, she was like, hey, at the end of it, she was like, hey, thanks for coming to see me. Ooh, man, that just touched. So, you're talking business, and I'm here for business. But in my mind, it's like, man, I just stopped in my shoes, my track. I'm like, man, can I pray for you? Right there. Like, I come from a Christian background. Like, can I pray for you? She's like, yeah, I just prayed with her. Right? That's the human element right there, right? Because when she said it, because it really touched me, she's like, man, thanks for coming. So I'm here, I'm trying to make a deal happen. I just like.
But you're human too.
Yeah, I was just like, man.
Before all that stuff, you're still human.
Yeah, she was like, wow, thanks for coming to see. So like, man, it means something to people, right? So after that, we got off the phone. So the reason, as soon as we finished that conversation, I leave. But I really didn't jump on it yet because I still didn't know the condition of the house, if it was vacant or not.
Yeah.
Right? And we also saw something in the land records, in the probate, that said will for safekeeping in 2020, but it was never probated.
Yeah. The way it is in a lot of states, I can't remember exactly in that state is, if you become in possession of a will, you're supposed to act as an officer of the court and take it to the court for safekeeping, because you're supposed to have the original will to probate in almost every state. So if those are found, it's really important. So a lot of people don't know it, but you're supposed to do that. So people say, I'm not going to fool with this, but I'll drop it off. That's what happened.
Right. So it was there, but it's in the record since 2020. Think about we're 2025. So I know the 4-year rule or something, you have to probate it. So I wasn't sure who was in the house because this guy had died for like 5 years.
How far was the property from you?
Like 45 minutes.
I got to go that way.
So I drove out there. So when I got to the property, good thing the neighbor was outside. Neighbor, wonderful. He told me the whole history.
Wealth of info.
I'm like, yes, perfect. And I knew it was vacant. The people had just moved out 5 months prior. They were relatives that were living there. So I was like, okay, great. It's vacant. I went to the jail. This lady's ready to sign. I eventually got a notary to go to the jail. We got her signed. We're 50%.
What was your offer to her?
$2K.
And what was her share worth, more or less, after netting out taxes and debts?
Her share was probably worth at least $50K.
Okay. So right now, this is probably one of the top better land deals that you've ever done, but it's not a land deal.
Yeah, 10X. It was 10X. It was 10X on land spend by the time it was all said and done. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we're in it at 50%.
And let me back up for a minute. A lot of times people say their share is worth X amount and you're only giving them, a fraction of X. Yeah, dude. She said she doesn't care about it. She would let it go to a tax sale or a foreclosure or a creditor sale anyway. She's in jail. The whole family is a mess. This deal will not get done without someone like you. Even if they called a realtor, not getting done. No. Then call a lawyer and they're not going to deal with it right. They don't have the budget. They don't care. They're done. It's like a pawn shop.
Right.
That's what it is. So what you're doing effectively is cleaning up the title history that most people can't clean up anyway. You're putting it back in service on the tax roll. Someone's going to get to live in that house. We have an affordable housing problem right now anyway. Now you get a house back. You're doing a good thing. Although there's some people that you'll never convince that you bought something for $2,000 that's worth $50,000 or $100,000. You'll never convince them it's the right answer. I firmly believe it is.
Right. And like I said, she didn't really care about the house. She didn't talk to her sister. She didn't know where her sister was. So it was a mess. And the good thing, the reason we started going with this was 2 heirs. So we got back, we had 50% or $2K. The only issue is now we couldn't find the other sister. So I had to call the
So now you're back to the square one. On part B, square one.
Exactly. The next step was to hire the Bakers, private investigator firm. They're phenomenal. They are crushing it. So we went there. We were able to hire them. They came in. They found a sister.
How long did it take for them to find her?
Maybe 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
2-3 weeks. They find her. I don't know if it was actually 2 deals. Anyway, so we find her. She was actually in a hotel with her mom.
Whoa. That's a tough person to find because they're semi-transient.
Yeah. Oh, no, she's very transient. Very transient. She was like all over the. And the reason the Bakers called me, I was at a conference. She was like, hey, you need to call her now because I just talked to her mom. Mom says she's in the room here sleeping with me on the bed. You need to call her because the girl's always like in and out everywhere. So I jump out of my conference, call the mom. The mom was the ex-wife of the guy that passed away.
Got it.
It was a separate property. For
okay,
him.
so her daughter is the one. Is she above 18?
Yeah, she was like 20, late 20s. Actually, in his late 30s. So the mom, so here's the issue, right? The mom was like, yes. The mom was thank you. She was like, thank you for calling because the guy that passed away, her ex-husband, his sister, they're taking over the property. And they were like, oh, the property's supposed to go to us. And the mom was like, no, it's supposed to go to my daughters.
Right.
The one in jail. She's like, I have a daughter in jail.
If the daughters were deceased, it would go to the siblings.
Yes.
But if they're alive,
Yeah. She was like, supposed to go to my daughters. And she was like, thanks for calling me. I was like, yes, that's what we're trying to fix the issue. So the mom was 100% on board. She ended up being one of our disinterested affiants, the ex-wife.
Perfect.
Right? So she was on board.
Got an ally.
And she was on board. She got her daughter to sign. Matter of fact, the other disinterested affiant was this mom's sister. She was like, oh, she can sign on. So so everything was solved with that one call. We took the deal to the market.
Hold on. How long did it take you from the moment you're like, okay, I'm sniffing down this lead. I realized like, oh, we need to find her. She's in jail. Till the time you got that signature from the second daughter.
What's
his timeline?
Like 30 days. Yeah.
In the land business, you'd still be figuring out DD and trying to pitch this contract out soon.
Yeah.
Here, and you know what? Right off the bat, you're like, man, she's in jail. I don't know. You're kind of looking at like, I don't know if it's vacant. I don't really know. And within 30 days, you went from, I don't really know to what was the final margin on this?
107 spread net to us.
Dude, you went from I don't know to $100,000 in equity in 30 days. Like, I don't know what other kind of transformation I've seen out there in the real estate business. It's much better than that. Yeah. And that was your first deal.
That was our first deal.
Dude, so I love that your first deal was a great deal. The only bad part is now you really have to be disciplined because sometimes you see a deal that makes 70 and you're like, eh. So like you gotta, I'd like those to be your base hits. Focus.
I like that. I like that mindset. And that's kind of the mindset we're doing. So we got that. So from the time we called that first, that lady hung up to the time we got the wire was 45 days. Cash conversion cycle.
That's a great cash conversion cycle.
45 days. Everything was 45 days. And that's what sold us to DPA while we're in the coaching because we're still dibbling. We're still in the land 90%.
Were you starting to get excited at this point? Yeah. Like, holy crap, everybody, like, it's real.
So when we closed that deal, prior to that, I was telling Emily, hey, we're probably going to end of the year. We're going to look at our DPA deals, look at land, and kind of say how we're going to do this.
Yeah, we don't need to do that review anymore.
So when that deal closed out, you know what, Emily? We're probably going to start in November. The deal closed in October.
Oh, there he goes again. We're starting again. Put your pencils down, guys. Come on over.
I don't even write these dates down because I know it'll call me later that day and be like, oh, change. We're doing
So once we closed it, we decided to go full DP after that. And Emily, you can talk about where you were in the coaching. And coach, I picked up one. She had picked up like 3 or 4 by then. So Emily, go ahead.
This is an experience we see with so many people.
Right.
The only time I see that it doesn't work like they wanted is when they don't put in the effort.
Oh, yeah.
If they're not making the calls and they're not vested, you guys were vested, you cared, and you were willing to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
How long into our program did that happen? Because we're usually about 4 months, 5 months range.
Oh yeah. It was 4 months. By the time, it was 3 months actually. By the time we actually got the cash, it was 3 months because the program ended
paid in 3 months.
In 3 months.
So month 3 got paid. About month 1.5, the deal started to
our first deals in August.
Yeah, which is a month into the program. She got the first deal. This was my first deal. But she actually got the first signature for our team. She got the first deal, and you can probably talk through that, which will actually be a worse deal. It's okay. It's
a learning experience.
Yeah, let's talk about that because it doesn't take very many times for you to do that for you to not do those things again.
Oh, man, please, this is anyway.
We pound our heads on the desk about this deal, but then we're like, you know what, that's taught us a lot.
We'll talk about that.
There's hope, and it's also taught us a lot for our first deal that we're getting. We're just so excited to get in.
The great news is you're learning lessons while you do
$100,000
net deals instead of doing $10,000 and $15,000 deals, getting paid, put a little in the retained earnings, got to pay a little bit to your household to keep the bills on, and you're learning and you're going to get there. You're making money while you're learning. We've been killing it for 12 fucking years, and we've been messing up, and we've been making a lot of money along the way. Like, man, thank goodness. I'm sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
No, it's good.
Yeah, that deal.
You're on the right track. Like, this is like, here you go.
Yeah, that deal it ended up being 24 acres. We thought there was a house on it. There wasn't. HCAD's mapping system showed a house, and then we went to a different view. We're looking at Google Maps. We didn't go, I'm in New York. He hadn't gone to the property yet. Someone's supposed to sign tomorrow. They're saying like, no, someone built a house on it, but it's not their property. It's like a new build in 2021.
Uh-oh.
And we're like, well, sweet. We'll take the new build, but it was just so.
Wait a second, did y'all work with us on this one?
No, we brought it up to Kyle about it, what's going on, but we didn't work with you guys on this one. No.
Okay.
But so what happened was we had scheduled 2 or 3 of the heirs to sign Saturday, and I'm thinking, like, racking my brain Friday, and I'm like, what's going on with this? Someone says it's vacant. Someone says someone built on the wrong property. I'm like, you don't just go and build on property that's not yours, recently. And so I was like, I start looking at HCAD, and I'm like, I'm looking at the neighbors' properties, and I go and see because one of the heirs said, I called the neighbor, and he said, he was like a Mexican guy, and he's like, I bought this from the land bank and stuff. So I'm looking at the neighbors, and I see the property next to the one that we're looking at had sold in 2020 with the land bank. And I was like, okay, that's the house. But HCAT has this all wrong. It shows that house. Google Maps shows this house on the property that we're looking at. At this point, we already had people scheduled to sign and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't want to cancel this. Our first deal. We're kind of excited.
Yeah, we're like, we'll just do it. Turns out, there's like 24 errors, a lot of personalities involved, and some of them are my best friends. Some of them don't like me at all. Someone don't want to talk about anything.
They don't. Jail.
That one's in jail. They don't want anything to do with it. Some of them don't want to be bothered. It's just a learning experience. I think we've got Yeah, we own 90 some
We own
percent.
91%. We have 11 or 12 out. Well, I'll say 11 out of 23 heirs. So we're halfway there. All the people left all the 1% heirs.
Yeah, they're like the
1%
marginal.
interest.
Leave them to the end.
Yeah.
So no, at this point we're illegal. So we had to send out demand letters. Funny enough, one of these I got a cease and desist from one of the heirs. They're like, stop contacting us. I was like, whatever. Send it to Nathan as an attorney. We use Nathan.
We're co-owners, dude. We have to resolve this.
Yeah, so we pay the taxes on it, send it to Nathan. So we're right now at the point we're going to be doing a credit lawsuit and to kind of take back the interest of most of them.
You know, this is a really interesting point. So you have a deal that's 2 owners and you have a deal that's 24 owners, a deal that's gotten really complicated, a deal that's simple. This is a really important topic to talk about right now because there are a lot of people that are like easing their way towards this type of work. I tell people that first deal y'all did is exactly what you have to focus on for the first year or 2.
Smart.
Learn what you're doing, get good at it, put money in the bank, have short cash conversion cycles. But the thing is, you don't know till you don't know. Yeah. We try to talk about in the program, but entrepreneurs are all very similar in the sales role and entrepreneur, all those things. You're like, I got to get deals. And you just got to learn it. It's so hard to solve those 24 people deals. And all it takes is one person to say F off. But you had 2 people that were both like fairly reasonable people.
Right.
So I tell people the low-hanging fruit is those kind of deals. And you can generally see early on, once you're having conversation with people, even if you didn't do the full research and figure out everything, the interviews like you did and the interviews like you're doing, you start to get that context and say, oh, one person said 6 people, one person said 12. Hold on, what's it worth? Hold on, what other issues are there? Let's keep this in our CRM. The probability of somebody going to work in this is slim. Let's maybe move to something that's a little easier in the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to say something?
Oh, no, that's exactly what he talked about. He's like, let's focus on definitely less than 10, ideally like 1 to 5.
Yep.
Doing all this research, I just kept hitting so many deals that were like 20-year deals. Every time I pick up the phone, I'm talking to someone, they're like, oh, these people had 10 kids. These people had 10 kids. It's like, I was like, when am I going to get a 1-year deal, 2-year deal?
Sometimes it's the region. Like when you go to certain parts of the state, you'll find lots of that. But another thing that changed over time for us is when I started to hear those high numbers, I'd be like, nah. But then we also started looking at value.
Spread.
So when you're doing that for $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 property, you got to really consider that. Dude, we've got one that's $2.5 million. We've got one that was $1.25 million. We did $1 million. I mean, when you start seeing numbers like that and $100,000 or $200,000 or less in taxes, I'm willing to deal with 20 people.
Yes.
We've done one that I talk about somewhat often with 63 owners. Right. We made $1 million on that deal. And we nailed almost all of that in like 90 or 120 days. Wow. Now, it took it was probably like 6 to 9 months to get the last few people because it was just hard. But we were going for $1 million and we only spent $250,000 to do that. Right. You do it.
Yeah.
But that house you're dealing with is what, worth 100, 200 that lot or less?
No, the lot's worth like
75.
It's like 75. Oh. So so Logan, that's the point. So by the time we got in 75, I'm like, oh. So we started paying these people out $500, $750. I'm looking at the taxes, like 20-something K. I'm like, this is 50K.
I'm running out of margin.
I'm just like, but exit 9 plus there's a memorandum of contract with this wholesaler, but Nathan, we're going to solve that. The wholesaler thinks they're going to get money they're not going to get because I checked with Montiel and those guys first after, like, there's ways around that. So anyway, I'm like, hey, I told Emily, we're going to take these people to the credit lawsuit. They have like 9 left. We'll eventually go buy the interest back, take it back at the whatever through the writ of execution by the sheriff. Go through that process. I was like, worst case, it's land and it's a hot part of Houston. Let me put it like that. It's not going down in value, right? So if I have to sit on that, or worst case, I'll build a house. I'll do new construction. I don't mind on the side. Just put a project on the side. I was like, the point is we're not going to lose money on it. Worst case, if the numbers start to really squeeze, we can sit on it or just build something on the future, right? So I'm not concerned about that, but it was a lesson learned. So we changed our entire strategy after that. That's the thing about that. I'm
sorry I interrupt you a lot, but like we're talking about a lot of good details, so I got to.
No, you're good.
When you have a business model that allows you to still make money, to satisfy every need that you have and make profit and grow, and when you have something that goes wrong in the land space, you're going to lose marketing money, you're going to lose diligence money, or if you spent the money to buy the deal, you might lose actual like investment dollars.
True.
Your worst deal can go in the back of the pipeline and you'll eventually get it solved. You'll eventually make money on it. And your spend is low enough to where your business can afford to carry that cost and not like, oh my God, I have to have that money. I'm going to have a problem.
Exactly.
Your worst deal isn't that dang bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not bad. And it just helps you. Like, the thing is, I love the way you guys go about showing people how to do the business model, because it's like, okay,
Deals and business, those can be separate.
right, yeah, the model is like, hey, this is how the model works. It's a strategy. However, everyone goes about it differently. So after, because I know Jordan Jones has been on and he's part of your team as far as your partners, he's very judicious as far as looking for death, et cetera, et cetera. He keeps his number of heirs low. And so we started taking some of that and the rest of everyone on your team. We started listening. After our experience, we're like, hey, you know what, Emily? If it's double-digit heirs, we're probably not going to do it unless it's like 500K spread. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Yep.
So right now, we have 19 properties in our inventory to date,
Woo.
right, as of this date. And when I looked at the numbers this morning, our average heirs are 4. That's the average number we need to be at, 4 to 5.
That's
Easier.
very low risk.
Right. So my point is, my team, my mindset, Logan, my slogan in my head that goes is, how can we get to 100%? Because I'm trying to get to market. I don't care about fancy, looks nice, or retail property. I don't care. I just want to get to 100%. I'm trying to get on the market. So now that's where Emily comes in, because she started picking up one-air deals. Because I was the one that picked up a one-air deal once. She eventually got a one-air deal, which you can talk to as a portfolio. Picked up 4 properties Monday, 2 days ago. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, it was a guy that, this is where you have to be hungry in this business.
Oh,
I spent half a day trying to get a hold of this guy. And it's like, one lead source says he lives in Texas. One says he lives in Delaware. I'm like, his dad's name is the same as his name, just a different middle initial. So then that's kind of making everything kind of wonky. Like, okay, who are we talking about here? Long story short is like, I was able to do some research on his family. His dad didn't have any siblings. He was the only child. They were estranged, like they didn't have a relationship, but he inherited all these properties when his dad passed because he's the only heir.
Yeah.
And I contacted a cousin of his dad's who knew him close when he was younger, but didn't really know him as they got older. But she said, I recently reconnected to my cousin that did know him and his son well in California. So she's like, I'll call her and explain what's going on, and then she can call him and give him your number. And I'm like, okay, when you hear like, oh, they'll call you back.
Right.
We're not giving up. I'm like, I don't hold my breath there. But I had a good conversation with her. Trust was built there. We talked about a lot of things, and she was really sweet. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to call her right now and call my cousin. Then that cousin has to give this other guy, the actual heir, my number. It was probably like end of that day, I get a phone call from a number I didn't call. And
That's
was
fast.
like, that day. I was like, he was like, hi, I hear you're trying to get a hold of me. And I was like, is this? And I said his name, and I was like, I am so glad you called. I said, I've been trying to track you down for half the day today. I was like, you're a hard guy to get a hold of. And he was laughing. Yeah. He's like, well, what's up? So, just being genuine of like, I was tracking him down for half the day, couldn't get a hold of him. We were laughing first thing off the bat. And I just said, look, I see a lot of these properties, they're in tax suit. One's like final judgment already. This is like, it's moving.
And he didn't know about 2 of them.
He didn't even know about that property.
He inherited a portfolio from his dad.
Oh,
but he didn't even know he owned this property. He didn't even know his dad had this property.
Oh, it was a surprise.
It's like, we bring a lot of value. That's like a big value. Like I'm telling him about a property he has no idea he even owns that his dad owned.
Yep.
He has a list of properties he knows about. He had no idea about this one. No idea.
So what happened? If he had a list of properties, did he work with y'all?
He was overwhelmed.
He was overwhelmed when his dad passed.
His dad passed. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he was overwhelmed when his dad passed. He got all these properties. He didn't really have a relationship. It's like you're a normal person. You maybe have one property, and all of a sudden you've got like properties in multiple states, Arkansas, New Mexico, Texas. And it's overwhelming for a normal person. Like there's all these property taxes, expenses, like houses, it's just overwhelming for the average normal person to come in that situation.
Yeah.
So, I talked to him about it. I said, what are you doing with these properties? He's like, yeah, I'm fixing up one I want to keep. I was like, so the rest you want to get rid of? And he's like, yeah. And I said, okay, well, maybe we'll work something out with you, for all of them. And I was just talking to him about, let's figure out what the properties are. I sent him the list that we had of his dad's portfolio. And I said, like, look at your list to see if we're missing any properties, because I already told you about one you didn't know. You may tell us about ones we don't know about,
Mm-hmm.
So didn't really talk to him like for like a week. I just touched base with him, but I didn't hear back. And I was like, oh, we'll see. And he's going out of the country the 15th of December for like a month to Denmark. And
Oh.
I'm like, okay, we got to get the ball rolling here if we're going to do something, you know? So I follow up with him again. I'd send him a text. I'm like, hey, do you have your list yet? So we can get this going. He's like, yeah, let's just go with the list you sent. And so I was like, okay, figured out where he needed to be price-wise, talked to Tim about it, had a conversation. I said, you know, I think we can work something out, but you really need to call him on this one and really negotiate this one. Like, this is like, you know, you're the business owner. You have to take the risk that you're comfortable with, whether that's like how much you want to come out of pocket, if you want to JV on them. But at the end of the day, you know, it's your decision. So I gave him his number, told him he'd call. He had a good conversation with them, and they met in person Monday, signed for 4 of the properties, and then Monday I also got a different deal, 4 heirs, but 1 signed Monday. So Monday was 5 properties Monday.
Good day.
Last week it was like Tuesday was like 3 properties, 3 different deals. I was like, this is good.
Wow.
Yeah. So one thing we did with the coaching, right, that helped us. We're talking to Kyle, and that this part isn't why we took it. A lot of things you can just learn through mentorship that kind of speeds up your learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle was like, one thing he mentioned, like, hey, when you talk to most of these people, see if they have other properties.
You know, that's something that I never really did, and Kyle's did a great job at that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we started.
So that expands quick.
Exactly, and it helps you scale faster, and it's
so efficient.
Yeah, it's efficient because you're talking to one person, 4 properties. It's like that'd have been 4 different people. AOH is.
Who knows
think
how
about it, I
many
get stressed.
heirs?
So the thing about that is, we talked to this guy. It was 1A. Picked up this portfolio, right? Emily talks to him. So Emily didn't talk the numbers. I'll share that. Let's say the market value for all these properties. Let's say the cattle showing like 8, maybe 500-600K. This guy doesn't know about the property. He's like, Emily's like, what do you want? He's like, 400K. So she tells me, I immediately lose interest. I'm like, 400K. Okay. She's like, well, Tim, you know what? You might want to talk to him. So I'm like, well, I talked to him. This is literally on Monday, 2 days ago. I talked to the guy. I'm talking to him. Again, remember Acres of Diamonds, doing deals in your backyard? The properties are 20 minutes from where I live, all 3. And it's, matter of fact, in the same school district I went.
Dude.
So that same evening, I was like, hey, man, look, he's like, he doesn't know about the properties. He's an hour away from Houston. I was like, have you been there? He's like, no. Like, so you don't know the condition? He's like, no. Because he inherited from his dad. I was like, okay. Like, you know if there's squatters there? He's like, no. I'm like, so you don't know nothing? He's like, no.
These are good questions because they help you understand what's going on. You need to know it, but it also helps them understand there's a lot of risks out there.
Exactly.
And the typical person who's not in real estate or in this kind of real estate or in real estate in that region, they don't know what the risks are. So this is a really good exercise to do for both of y'all.
Right. So our exercise typically is, as soon as Emily comes to the deal, like, Emily, stop. What's the spread? First, I don't know.
Is it juice or the squeeze?
Yeah, what's the spread? Second, stop. Is it vacant? Yep. Third, how many heirs? Before you start, I need to know those 3 questions.
Those are great.
So I can process in my head before you start going to the fact pattern. So with him, vacant, second question, I told him, like, look, you know what, I'll call you back. Let me go drive to those properties right now. I drove out to the properties, noticed 2 of them are vacant. The third one, I went to the next day. So eventually I called him back. In my head, I'm like, man, how can I work out a deal? I'm always asking my thing because I feel in this business there are 3 things that make you successful, at least so far. Human psychology and sales. Number 2 is problem solving. 3 is DPA technical, which is understanding.
Dude, that's a great way of describing 3 pillars.
Right, yeah. So those 3 things. So human psychology, sales, problem solving, DPA technical, which is understanding statutes, the model, how to, you know. So with this guy, it's like, I'll ask myself, number 2, problem solving. How can I make this deal work? Because at this point, there are 4 properties on the line. 2 have already been doing through the tax lawsuit. There's an order of sale. So they're going.
Coming.
It's like any day now. So I told the guy, like, look, you're about to go to Europe in 3 days. Like, by the time you come back, they're probably gonna be sold. I told him. Yeah. So he understands the risk. We're both on the same page. I like, we can't give you no numbers. I got to make sure they're vacant. Because if we got to deal with squatters and legal, that's more risk. I was like, hey, the good news working with us is there's no title coming, so we can get this done Monday. This is on a Saturday we're talking. So I go look at the property, I call him back. He's like, hey, Tim, I thought you forgot me. I was like, yeah, I had to drive out there. It took me a while. I call him back. I told him, like, hey, they're vacant. There's vandalism, a lot of grass. So Logan, I'm on my way driving there again through the program. Again, I can't say this enough. Mauricio, one time he came on, he mentioned how he JVs with landowners or heirs. So that thought again, because I heard that. So I went back, I talked to him on the phone. I was like, hey, I'm going to give you 2 options. And one option I knew, I was trying to steer him away from that because I didn't want to come out of cash because this business is cash dependent. You go out of cash, run out of cash fast. So I'm like, hey, look, we'll give you $120K. Keep in mind, the properties, the real value is about $800K for all 4. 3 in Texas, 1 in New Mexico, $800K. I was like, we'll give you $120K for all of them. You'll be done. You can move on with your life. Of course, I didn't have $120K to even give him. But I was like, or number two, here's what we'll do. Let's do a joint venture. We'll take care of all the issues, right? We'll solve them. You can go to Europe and do what you have to do, and we'll go to market together. We'll solve all the problems, the title, ownership, and tax issues. As a matter of fact, as a good faith, we'll give you $10K on Monday. Come to Monday, get $10K, sign the JV agreement, sign all this paperwork. You can go about, and we can partner and split the profits 50-50 after we get our money back. He was like, I'll go with option two. So I was like, I'm curious, why did you pick option two? Because I want to understand the psychology of these people. He's like, well, it just seems like it was more thought out and there's more upside. I'm like, I get it. I'm like, you take no risk and we take all the risk. You enjoy all the upside.
And you get more money.
Yeah, you get more money.
You got to wait a little, but.
Exactly. But he didn't care because he's going to Europe for like 9 weeks. So on Monday, he came to the office. I had a notary show up and we signed all the papers.
Bam.
We gave, at first, remember, he's asking for $400K. We ended up giving him $10K, $800K value in properties. So right now we're going to end up splitting those. Margin's probably going to be around $200-300K. We're probably looking to make when it's all said and done.
So the smart person says this is going to be lower risk because it's one owner. You have a lot less legal issues. You're not hurting cats, all that stuff. So that's wise because a lot of people will say, I'm looking at the big price. I want all that for myself, and they get greedy and they take way too much risk. Now they got to figure out how to pay for it. And you know what? Sometimes it might work out that way. But also with that guy, sometimes if you make him a really low offer, like it's got too many problems and it doesn't, he's going to tell you to get lost.
Exactly. You got to be careful.
Right. So I think you made the wise decision. I wouldn't even call that a base hit. I'd still call that a home run.
Right.
Some people say a home run is the whole thing. Dude, you're gonna make $200-300, whatever, $400,000 for yourself, and you're gonna have very minimal cash out of pocket. Come on, you did the right thing.
What I always tell Emily when she tells me about deals, I always tell her, look, we always have to ask ourselves, is what's the worst case scenario?
Thank you.
People always looking at the best case. I tell Emily, no, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Let's look at the downside.
I like what's the worst case? I like, first of all, I don't want to come off across any cash because we have all these 18 other properties.
Right.
There's cash. It's how you know about the business cash.
It can be minimal per property, but it can add up.
Yeah. So I'm like, we'll come off 10K. We control this upside. Here's the kicker making a home run. As we're at the closing table signing, he was like, oh, let's see how this goes. He like, I'm going to have more properties. He has more properties. He didn't even tell us about it, but he's keeping it to himself.
List. Yeah.
So hopefully they don't get foreclosed. So, but anyway, so my point is when he sees how we work on these four, he's more than willing.
You're transparent. You made a wise business decision. You did the right thing. And y'all, it sounds like at this point, if it works how you expect, y'all are all going to do great.
Yeah. About hopefully $200-300K spread. So it's a great deal she found, right? So speaking of the one-air deals, you talk about giving people money up front. Emily, I want you to talk to this because typically one thing we have to be wise, and Emily has told me about this, when it's a one-air deal, there's only one hurdle. You at 100%. But making your offers, you have to be very careful.
Yep.
Because you get one shot to piss them off and they hang up and you're out the window, right? So Emily has told me about this, like maybe you have a chance to make 100K. Giving a person 1K is dumb, right?
Right, I agree.
Unless they just really are disconnected.
So I think that's the time where you just right there, you're about to go there. You start to feel them out and listen and hear for signs and signals and decide, are they like flat out like the dude in jail? That could have been a $50,000 deal, could have been a $400,000 deal. If they're just like, I'm done, I don't care. When you hear that, baby, I'm coming with 500 or 1,000. Mm-hmm. But if they're vested more like this guy,
and he's a smart guy, he knew what was going on. He kind of understood it. So, I bring this up because I want Emily to talk to this because we had a deal, and you know the deal I'm talking about. He had a wholesaler with memorandum of contract. The wholesaler lives in Georgia. Anyway, but the point is, the lady had talked to other people. Maybe they do the model also, and somebody have offered her $5K at one point. And she's the one air deal. And this is $350K spread. Mm-hmm. We signed this one last week. Mm-hmm. $350K spread, two properties, one owner, probate. And she's an independent executrix. It's going through probate.
She sign right off.
Sign off, no AOH needed. Like just sign off right. So I don't know if they really understood why they offered $5K, but we ended up, you want to talk about what we offered her and why we got that deal?
Yeah. So with her, and one thing I want to bring up, which Tim and I talk about a lot, is why this business model works so good is because we are solving real problems for real people that they're stuck. You know, a lot of them are completely stuck. Like they have a couple options. It's like do nothing, get nothing. You know, it's going to the tax auction, or, you know, they're just in a position whether it's like family drama, they don't get along, you know, things like that, or like this guy that inherited properties, he's overwhelmed. It's so case specific. where you really have to like be listening who you're talking to and just dissect, okay, what's this person's problem? Why is this property in this situation? What happened to get them there? And then building from there and saying like, you know, I'll give you options. I don't really care if you work with us or not, you know, just kind of lowering their guard. If you choose not to work with us, I'm still going to point you in the right direction of what you need to do to solve this for yourself. You know, there's people that they're like, we don't want to sell this property, but we don't know what we need to do. I tell them what they need to do because like I have to be right with God. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing every single day of my life. So if I can add value to someone that I'm not working with, that's valuable to me, you know, to just be able to do that for someone. So it always comes back, you know, it always comes back to you. So really just identifying the problem and why this business works is because there are so many problems that people are not touching, you know. So once you're figuring out what the problem is case by case, then who you're talking to, you know, where they are as far as like age, you know, just avatar in general.
Yeah.
And then building that connection with them. And this lady, she inherited these 2 properties from someone that didn't have any kids. It was an older woman she was great friends with. She tried selling the properties a while ago, couldn't because there were squatters that claimed that they were like distant heirs to the property that moved in and did
they
all
had
this
horses.
stuff. They had horses there. The
So it's like, how do I get them out of there? It's like heavy.
Yeah. So she couldn't do anything about it, but she wasn't paying taxes on a property she wasn't even using. She already lost one of the properties. She inherited more than just these 2. She already lost 1 or 2 of the properties to foreclosure at that point. So, and she's like, I just want a new car. I was like, well, we can, you know, I'm so glad. I said,
I think I can do that.
so glad. This lady was hard to get a hold of too. I called every possible contact on Skip Trace because I couldn't get a right number for her. Every possible contract. Her family members thought I was collections calling.
Oh.
Are you collections? Would hang up, click. The next one, same thing. Thought I was calling and I'm like, if they think it's collections, like I need to get a hold of this woman because she apparently needs the money, you know?
Oh, great connection.
So I'm like, okay, that really drove me into like finding her. So I called another. They're like, she was actually with the person that just hung up with me. She's like, I'm fixing to hang up on her. She just called me and I hung up on her. I was like, please.
What'd you say to get her to not hang up?
I said, please, before you hang up, just let me tell you one thing. I said, I'm not collections. I said, I am trying to help her. I said, she has these properties. She's going to lose them. I think I can help her. You know, I just got my point across. It's like, I'm not selling you anything. I don't want you to pay for anything. I want to help her. So so she ended up like, didn't really say anything, hung up. And I'm like, but I knew she heard me. Yeah. So it was like an hour later, I get a call, calling all these people. Some relatives are acting like, I don't know who she is. I'm not related to her. No one can give me any kind of good lead on her, a number or anything. So like an hour later, I get a call. She's like, who's this? And I was like, this is Emily. Who's this? And she's like, well, I think you're trying to get a hold of me. You've called all my family. And I'm like, is this?
Sometimes you have to.
You know, I was like, is this? And I said her name. And I was like, I am so glad you called. And I, laid it up to her. I was like, and she's like, that's exactly like right. Like I can't pay the taxes. I do need money. And I'm like, we can help you. We just got to figure out, something we can agree upon and we'll get this going. Then she was like, well, when do you want to do this? Like, my daughter wants me to do this, and this. You get someone else involved.
Don't get anybody else involved because they screw up deals all the time.
Anyway. And she's like, I was like, what do you want? Everyone else can tell you what to do, but what do you want? This is your property.
Oh, that's a good line.
And she's like, I want to get this done. Like, I'm going to lose the property. I want to get this done. I want to get a new car. I'm like, okay, let's get this done. I was like, we can have someone out there tomorrow. And she's like, that's really quick. And I was like,
we learned from you. You got to move fast.
Yeah.
One air deal, $350K spread on the line. And she had a daughter that lived close by that might talk to her and
wanted to get an appraisal.
They will botch
she
it.
wanted to get an appraisal on the
botch
property.
Go get an appraisal. But meanwhile, that sheriff sale is about to happen. You don't have the resources.
And that squad is still there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and I told her, I said, okay, say your daughter gets an appraisal and she comes back and the property is worth X amount of dollars. How does that change the situation you want? Are you still planning on paying the $35,000 in back taxes?
Good question.
Right.
Or if you're not and getting these squatters off and all these legal fees and working with attorneys, and if you're not, then it's zero. You're losing the property. It doesn't change where you're at, And I said, we can have someone out there tomorrow. I said, honestly, at the end of the day, you have to do what you're comfortable with. I said, if you think this is going to help you, you want a new car, you want to get something for these properties and not lose them, then you can go with us. If you're not comfortable, it's okay too. Like, you have to do, I'm not like high pressure, like at all. And that makes people come to you. Yeah. She's like, okay, I want to do this tomorrow. It's like the more you pull away, we always talk about this, the more you pull away and you're like, well, maybe this isn't for you.
I always talk about that in our office, the takeaway clause.
Yeah,
you have to.
They just draw.
Everybody's pushing them. You got to sign by this time. The offer expires by this time.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe it's not for you. Like, you have a pitch. You have an offering that most people don't have. And even people that are easing into this business, until they get what they're doing, they can't do it either.
Yeah.
You know what? I've proven that I can do this. I've proven I can get this to the finish line. I've proven what I'm going to give you with my knowledge and my communication skills. Well, maybe it's not for you. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, it is. I love it. Yeah. We do that with contract. Dude, I do that with everyone in my whole life. You know what? Maybe it didn't work. Uh-oh.
Yeah, so she leaned in. And the thing about this deal, what made it unique about the one-air deals is we ended up offering this lady $50K, which I thought you have to be pretty fair. It's real money, right? But
it's real money, yep.
But the thing is, Logan, one thing I've heard you say, look, I'm starting looking at as a business owner, looking at the cash, and cash is going out. It's taking a while for them to come back in because these deals, you're solving problems. We're not giving her $50K up front. She didn't get $50K when she signed. Again, how do you structure these? We revised our contract, closing package, like, hey, look, we'll give you $1K when you sign. And she didn't get it $50 when she signed. That's a week later because we still needed we ran like a Pro Title USA report. I wanted to still get that back because there were things I wasn't sure of. I was like, we'll give you $1K. 2 weeks payment, 2 weeks due, which is $25K. 2 weeks after that, the final $25K. So that way I'm staggering cash out.
That's good.
While I'm kind of like doing more of my due diligence and getting all the ducks lined up. And so that's how we structured it. And I think the reason she went with us, besides what Emily said, and kudos to Emily, the way she does due diligence she's diligence going after people. She went with us for $50K because somebody else, I think that maybe does this model, offered $5K. My point is, I'll bring this up, it doesn't really make sense. Some of these deals because you can lose it. And the lady declined that person at $5K, which makes sense. She's not that dumb. She might be desperate, but I ain't that desperate. Right. I'd rather lose and get zero because $5K in my mind is zero, but $50K is real money. Maybe she can now buy this vehicle. I didn't even know about this car stuff. So my point is sometimes we're prioritizing going after a low number of airs, but if it's a one-air deal, I tell Emily, do not make an offer. One air, let's come back and talk about it.
Let's talk.
Let's talk and see let's understand the whole dynamic. And let's go make an offer after that. So we don't lose, because we have one shot.
We get more contact.
Yeah.
Context.
More context. Yeah, but if it's multiple airs, there's another air. There might be a strange you can get in at a low buck. You can still get in and now, whatever, try to resolve for the other ones. But we picked up quite a few of these one air deals, so which has been good. It's been great kind of transitioning to less number of airs, which has been helping us kind of really get into deals. And we feel like our business model at this point now is more, like I said, streamlined, it's a lot more efficient. What I do love about this.
Probably a smaller team now.
It is. Funny enough, I had to let go of one of my cold callers just because we didn't really need that anymore.
Yeah.
The other thing is our expenses are down 40%. Because all the stuff we had to slash, we didn't need. All these texting platform, cold calling platform, all the we had to spend with droners and all this activity. I'm like, 40% less. Potentially 8 to 10x.
So with overhead being less, it's easier to get through tight months. Make no mistake, you can have a multi-million-dollar pipeline, tens of millions of dollars pipeline. I got it right now. But you have months where revenue is weaker, revenue's higher, because you just can't forecast. Is this deal going to take 3 weeks or 3 months? It sounds like it's going to take 3 weeks, and sometimes it takes 3 months. Sometimes you think it's going to take 3 weeks instead of 3 days. You just don't know. And you'll never solve that. Even at the volume we got at 150 units in inventory, we still have revenue go like this.
Yeah.
So overhead managing as much as possible is very, very wise. I don't care who you are in this business.
Yeah. We're seeing that. So we try to be. That's why we try to be very judicious with the cash.
Yep.
We're offering these people money. Like, hey, we can give you a good deal, but you're not probably gonna get it all up front. And sometimes it doesn't work. So some of it you do have to kind of be. You have to be tactful and strategic. As long as you're solving a problem, like we'll give you $50K, but. We had to deal one, a lady, she was a widow. Okay, I have to talk about this because, again, I can't say enough about the coaching with Cal because, first of all, Cal is phenomenal. I'm glad we got to meet him. So I made a mistake on a deal, right? I'm thinking it's a one-air deal. I'm here celebrating. I tell everyone, it's a one-air deal. But the issue was it was a widow, husband that passed away, and the Texas intestacy chart, there's one by Old Dominion, there's a chart that tells you, but I'm thinking it's it was community property, but the guy, her husband had passed away, had a kid out of wedlock.
Yeah.
I mean, out of wedlock, outside of marriage. I'm putting it like
Prior
that.
to marriage.
But I'm
Outside
thinking,
of-
I was looking at the wrong part of the chart. I thought everything went to the widow. So I'm like 100%, one heir sign, I'm done. So I'm telling Kyle's like, hold on, pause.
Hold on. Go back to the chart.
He's like, tell me that fact pattern. I'm like, yeah, I had a kid. Because I was asking about the AOH, how to fill it out. He was like, that's not a one heir deal. I'm like, oh, I almost cried. Because I'm telling the lady, I didn't work out the deal with her. So now, but come to find out that actually it wasn't that bad. At 3 more heirs. So right now we have 2 more. One happens to be in prison. So we're still working through that. But my point sometimes, this kind of helps, working with people that can kind of help you work through some of these issues here, some of these deals. So anyways, it's been eventful. It's been very eventful.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, we're running thin here on time.
Definitely.
Man, I'm glad y'all came. This has been one of the most fun conversations I've had this week because y'all did a really good job of getting right in the details.
Right.
And to me, that's the heart and soul. We can talk high level about stuff, but until you're talking about what's happened in the trenches, it's not the same. If you probably would have wanted to hear these things a year ago. So let me do that. You and you both have really gotten this business all within a year, less.
Yes.
Go back. I'll have y'all each do this. Go back a year ago and tell me what Tim needed to hear a year ago from the Tim today.
Okay. Oh man.
There's a lot. I usually tell people to go back 10 years,
Right.
but you've had so much change in the last year. I'm just gonna say a year.
So rephrase that question to make sure I understand.
The Tim today has a
Right.
whole lot more to say and knows a whole lot and had a
Yes.
lot of great experiences. Go back and tell Tim a year ago what he needs to hear back then.
Oh, I got you. It's like I said, you mentioned in a few podcasts. It's not as challenging as you think. That's what I'll tell Tim. And but you will have to slow down and take a deep breath and kind of dig deep in some of these deals. The other thing I'll tell Tim, it is a completely different business model, but it's absolutely worth it because it's a lot more exciting, right? And when you do get to the finish line, you start getting some of these spreads. Like right now, if I had to tell Tim, like, hey, look, if you look a year ahead, you have your average deal is easily 6 figures. Like right now, we have 19 deals in the pipeline. The projected equity on those 19 deals as of this day, today, is at 1.9 million. And this is in 6 months. Since we started. I mean, that's our goal for the land business was at 1.3 for last year. We didn't even come close to that. But this is like real opportunity here, right? That we can 10x our business, reduce our revenue by 40%. I mean, I think that's unheard of.
Reduce your
right?
cost by 40%.
Sorry.
Overhead.
My overhead by 40%. So I think that I'll tell them like, hey, jump into it. And just kind of a little tangent right here, just to be a little more transparent. Part of the reason I got into this was when I was looking at the land stuff, we did come across some land deals where we had title issues. And a couple of them, and we had one in Massachusetts was like almost a 500K spread. We had no clue. We just throw them away. We couldn't do nothing with them. So one thing I told Emily is like, man, part of the reason I was really intrigued, outside the numbers, you mentioned all the numbers, 6 figures. I'm like, man, these are great. Logan, the skill. You can never take away a person's skill set. So when you said, like, this skill stuff, when you started talking about title abstracting, going in there, doing your own underwriting, I felt that was a phenomenal skill to learn.
It is.
So to me, the wisdom and the skill set trumped even the dollars. Because if you have that skill, you can always make money. So on a more personal level, when I took the title abstracting thing you guys offer, I went there and watched for 2 hours. It helped me in my personal life because a very, very close family member was having issues with the IRS and they had a lien on their property. And they would ask me for help, but I couldn't figure out how to help them. But as soon as I took your title abstracting thing, this is on a personal level, I understood the land records. So I was able to go there and look up the land records for their property and find out the IRS liens over 200K had been wiped off because they expired, the statute of limitation. And I went back and told them the good news, right? So because of that, it helped me on a very personal level, right? So if I had to tell Tim a year ahead, like, hey, you got to take the chance, but it's more than worth it.
At that point, you're like, I'm done. Game over.
Yeah.
You know what? At the direction you guys are headed, I need to see you back in a year. We'll talk about what the next year
Definitely
looks
looking
like.
forward to it.
That'll be exciting. Emily, now you go back and tell yourself when he's walking into your office, like, oh, we're going to change, and you're like, maybe, maybe not. What does Emily from back that time need to hear from you today?
I'm not a person that's scared of change ever. I've been that way my whole life. It's like actually it excites me. But I think it's more so like I would tell Emily back then, like, don't be scared of the challenges because you can't have victory without challenges. So it's like, it's such a learning process, and you can see in this business model how every challenge just gets stored in your brain. You use that in the future, and how, you get smarter. That's how you learn. Is like every challenge encourages you to grow and get smarter. So you should be embracing the challenges, really, because that's where you're leveling up. So I think is like, don't be scared of the challenges that you're going to face, throughout this new business, this model. It's like, that's really where you're going to experience the growth. So
That's true. I'm glad y'all made it today. This is a fun conversation. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Logan. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
That's all we got today. Till next time. My commitment to you is to deliver the most interesting, messy, and profitable real estate deals on earth. And in exchange for that, I only ask that you subscribe to this podcast and share it with a friend who can benefit.